Hello and welcome to another Smaulgld live stream. Today is Friday afternoon, the 18th of January 2018, and the topic of today's discussion is the lesson of Netflix versus Blockbuster. And we're doing a special live stream today. We've had requests from people across Europe, from the Netherlands to the Czech Republic, United Kingdom, to do an afternoon live stream, so we hope to accommodate with this one. Now, today, the lesson of Netflix versus Blockbuster. You're going to see why this may be relevant. Many of you already know the story, but it bears repeating some of the history. So let's go through what was Blockbuster. Now, some people may not even be old enough to remember Blockbuster. So Blockbuster was a video service that was founded in, I believe, 1985. And their original product was distributing VHS cassette tapes so that you could watch movies and the like on your VCR. And they got very successful, and they grew and grew, and they solved one major issue with disseminating videotapes, which was your ability to go to a place close to your home and rent your video of your choice. And they grew and grew, and they made a seamless transition to DVDs when they came out in the 90s. And they performed the same service, and they grew and grew, and there were more and more Blockbusters available in many neighborhoods. So you were never that far away from a Blockbuster if you wanted to rent a videotape or the new DVDs. And as the video cassettes became obsolete, they still carried them for the longest period of time for those people who were still using the VCR. But as I mentioned, they made a seamless transition into DVDs and then into Blu-ray, and they appeared to have an unassailable position, a market position, because they had locked up all of the prime spots in malls and in corners in major cities where you were never that far from a Blockbuster. If you wanted a video and you wanted to watch it right away, all you had to do is go and get it. Now, one of the risks to Blockbuster was the idea that companies would start streaming videos and that you would not need to go to the store, and that would be a very convenient thing. And that was one of the biggest threats that Blockbuster faced. Now, of course, Blockbuster started its own streaming business, so they thought they had that covered. But when streaming became a threat on the horizon, the streaming services were not that good. And the reason was the broadband capabilities of the infrastructure were not that, they did not really support video. They barely supported MP3s and music. So consumers preferred still to go to their Blockbuster and get a VCR tape, or increasingly started to get the DVDs and the Blu-rays. So it looked like Blockbuster would be able to hold its position. But Blockbuster had an issue, and it wasn't streaming video. A new company came along in 1997. It was called Netflix. Now, what Netflix did, they did not solve the streaming issue. In fact, they didn't solve any issue. Except for one very important issue that Blockbuster could have solved on its own, but refused to do so. The advantage of Blockbuster was you can go and get the video whenever you wanted, and you can have it almost instantaneously. What Netflix offered was not instantaneous. They didn't have a streaming service at the time. They didn't have their own studio. So what was Netflix offering that was so special? And I remember when it came out and I thought, okay, so why would I want Netflix? What is the point of Netflix? And I'm looking here at a cover, or you're looking at a cover. It shows the 20 years of Netflix. It's actually 21 years. It says, it feels like we've been together for 20 years. And indeed they have. What you're looking at is a mailer. Now this makes no sense. You're moving into the digital age, and a company comes along and it's going to mail you the DVDs. Now, this would appear to be a big-time loser. Why get something in the mail, wait a few days to get the movie that you want to see, when you can scroll down to the store and down to Blockbusters? In many instances, if you lived in a city, you actually could walk and go get it and watch it immediately. Blockbuster had an Achilles heel, and that was while they had solved the problem of allowing people the ability to watch when they wanted to, whether it was a video cassette or a DVD or a Blu-ray, they had one issue. And that was, while you could go down and rent those media, those video media, if you did not return it within the prescribed period, you got charged a fee. He says, well, so what? You know, you get charged a fee. That's right. Just like at the library, if you take a book out, the library doesn't charge you anything, but at some point, you not returning the book means others can't get that book. And so as a disincentive, they charge you a fee at the library. And it's the same thing at Blockbuster. If you did not return your video cassette or your DVD or Blu-ray, you had to pay a fee. And that seemed only fair. However, most people, when they have to pay fees, they get really annoyed. And they realize they rented the thing, they rented the movie, they watched it once, and sometimes your fees could exceed the price of the rental if you held on to it too long. What Netflix did was they solved an issue that Blockbuster itself could have solved, but didn't. Blockbuster looked on the horizon and said, the real threat to us, I believe this is what they discussed, was video streaming. So they probably rushed to put together a video streaming service to make sure that they would also have a footprint in the real world, but then also, and companies have done this. Walmart, where they keep their bricks and mortar footprint, which is very important, and then they add in the digital component online. Now, Netflix, as I mentioned, was not going for the digital. They were going after the customers of Blockbuster that did not like the idea that if they rented a video and didn't return it on time, that they'd have to pay a fee. So what Netflix did, and this is how Netflix gained its foothold. They didn't gain their foothold by providing a superior streaming service or providing original content through their studio. That came after they dethroned Blockbuster through this new method of delivering their videos and DVDs by mail. And the reason it was successful is people had been fed up with paying these fees, and they thought, look, it's better to rent a movie, and the genius of the Netflix was, we don't charge you any late fee, but if you don't return the video, then you can't rent another one, knowing that customers don't rent videos as a one-off, that they rent people who are consumers of videos. They binge watch, they watch one after the other, and the incentive to turn in the video was a positive incentive, so you can order 2 or 3 more, versus, oh, I better return that or I'm going to owe $6 or I'm going to go $8. And in that fashion, they managed to start chipping away at Blockbuster's share, and Blockbuster was dominant in 2004. And this was well before video streaming was even on the horizon. They were just starting. YouTube, it came out in 2005. It looked like Blockbuster had it all and was going to keep it all. But it was those pesky fees that did in Blockbuster. And they never, I don't think, maybe they might have at the end changed their service, but the idea that you can avoid the fee was something that consumers gravitated towards, and that allowed Netflix to drive a wedge in between the Blockbuster customers and bring them to themselves. And that shows that customers will change their behavior if there is an incentive to do so. Even if, on its face, Blockbuster was a superior product. The superior product that Blockbuster had was you can go and get your videos immediately. And yet people chose the slight inconvenience of having to wait, but realizing that it was far better that, and they knew they would rent more videos on this system, whereby if they returned a video, they would be able to rent more. A disincentive to Blockbuster use is, and you'd have this, a family member or roommate wouldn't return the video, and now you paid the fine and you figure, I don't have the money now to go and rent the new video, so screw videos for a while. I'm not going to watch any because I just spent my video budget on late fees. Now, why are we mentioning this? Well, later on tonight, we're going to do part 2 of this, and we're going to discuss how fees sometimes, and this is an example, can destroy a company. Let's take a look if we have anyone in the live chat. We don't. We've got a small audience today. I didn't expect to get a big audience, but please stop back this evening and we will do part 2 of the lesson of Netflix versus Blockbuster. Thank you very much for listening.